The shocking truth: being a loser is the key to freedom. Epictetus wisdom. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about success, winning, and achievement is a lie? That the very thing you fear the most, being seen as a loser, is actually the key to the most powerful form of freedom a human being can experience. Sounds ridiculous, right? But hear me out. Because today, we're going to dismantle one of the greatest illusions of modern society, the belief that your worth is tied to external success. And we're going to do it using the wisdom of one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Epictetus. Let's start with the simple but brutal truth. No matter how hard you try, you will never be in control of everything. You will lose things: opportunities, relationships, health, money. You will fail. You will be misunderstood, rejected, and overlooked. And no matter how much you try to fight it, life will, at some point, make you feel like a loser. The problem is, we have been trained to see this as the ultimate failure, as proof that we are not good enough. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? What if the real failure isn't losing, but refusing to accept the reality of loss? This is where Epictetus comes in. Unlike the privileged philosophers of his time, Epictetus was born a slave. He had no control over his circumstances, no wealth, no status. By society's standards, he was the ultimate loser. And yet, despite this, he became one of the most influential thinkers in history. How? Because he realized something that most people never do. Freedom isn't about winning. It's about letting go of the need to win. The moment you stop attaching your worth to success, you become untouchable. Think about it. What actually makes us suffer in life? It's not failure itself, it's our resistance to it. It's the fear of looking weak, the shame of not measuring up, the endless comparison to others who seem to be doing better. But here's the trick: all of that suffering is optional. It only exists because we choose to play a game we were never forced to play in the first place. The game of proving ourselves, of chasing validation, of defining our happiness by things we don't truly control. Epictetus argued that the only thing we ever really own is our mind, our perspective, our response to the world. Everything else, it's borrowed, temporary, outside of our control.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
So let me ask you, how much of your life is being dictated by things you don't control? How much of your happiness depends on the approval of others, the outcome of events, the idea of success that someone else created for you? And most importantly, what would happen if you stopped caring? Not in a nihilistic, give up on everything way, but in the sense of refusing to let external wins and losses define your peace. What if, instead of fearing failure, you embraced it as part of the natural flow of life? Because here's the paradox: once you accept that you will fail, that you will lose, that you will never have full control, you actually gain more control than ever before. Why? Because nothing can break you. If someone insults you, it doesn't matter, you don't need their validation. If you fail at something, it doesn't matter, you never based your worth on it in the first place. If life throws obstacles in your path, you don't resist them, you adjust, adapt, move forward. This is what true power looks like. Not the illusion of control, but the total release of the need for it. Society tells us that being a winner means dominating, achieving, proving yourself. But Epictetus shows us that real freedom comes from surrendering the fight altogether. If you are no longer terrified of loss, what can the world possibly take from you? If you are no longer chasing status, who can make you feel inferior. If you are no longer afraid of looking like a loser, what is stopping you from doing exactly what you want with your life? So here's the challenge. What would happen if, starting today, you stopped defining yourself by success? What if you measured your life not by how much you win, but by how well you handle losing? What if you stopped resisting reality and started flowing with it? Because the truth is, the people who are truly free in this world are not the ones who have won the most. They are the ones who have learned how to lose and, in doing so, realized they had nothing to lose at all. The power of indifference. Yet, how letting go makes you unstoppable. There is a hidden power that few people ever discover in their lifetime, a power so profound that once you embrace it, you become untouchable. It is the power of indifference. Not indifference in the sense of apathy, where nothing matters and life becomes meaningless. No, this is a higher form of indifference, one that frees you from the chains of external validation, from the weight of expectations, from the exhausting need to always be somebody. It is the indifference that Epictetus mastered, the kind that allows you to walk through life fearless. Because you no longer tie your happiness to things outside of your control. But think about how much of your suffering comes from wanting things to be different than they are. You want success, but the world does not always reward effort. You want respect, but people's opinions are fickle. You want security, but life is unpredictable. The more you desire control over these things, the more you suffer. But what happens when you stop caring about them in the way society has trained you to? What happens when you realize that none of these things, money, status, reputation, actually determine your inner peace? You become free, completely and utterly free. Most people live their lives like gamblers at a casino, placing their happiness on bets they can't control. They bet their self-worth on whether people like them. They bet their confidence on their career success. They bet their peace of mind on whether life goes according to plan. And just like gamblers, they experience fleeting highs when they win and crushing despair when they lose. But the problem isn't that they're losing, it's that they never needed to play the game in the first place. The moment you step away from the table, when you stop linking your happiness to outcomes beyond your control, you win a kind of victory that no amount of money, fame, or approval could ever provide. But here's the paradox: when you stop chasing these things, you actually become more likely to achieve them. Why? Because desperation repels, but confidence attracts. The job candidate who walks into an interview with the mindset of "I need this job to be happy" radiates fear and insecurity. But the candidate who walks in thinking, "This job would be nice, but I am already content with or without it," exudes confidence. The person who desperately seeks love is often the one who struggles to find it, while the person who is already at peace with themselves draws people in effortlessly. This is the power of indifference, not that you stop caring about life, but that you stop needing life to go a certain way in order for you to be happy. Epictetus understood this better than anyone. Born into slavery, he had no control over his external circumstances. He could have spent his life bitter, raging against his misfortune, wishing things were different. But instead, he chose to master the one thing that could never be taken from him: his mind. He realized that if he could train himself to desire nothing outside his control, he could never truly suffer. And that is exactly what he did. He accepted everything that happened to him as if he had chosen it. He refused to let external events dictate his inner peace. And in doing so, he became freer than even the most powerful rulers of his time. Now ask yourself how much of your suffering is self-inflicted. how much of your stress, anxiety, and disappointment comes not from life itself, but from your refusal to accept life as it is? What would happen if, instead of resisting, you embraced everything that happens as part of your path? What if, instead of fearing failure, rejection, or uncertainty, you welcomed them as teachers? This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength. The strength to remain calm in chaos, to be unshaken by misfortune, to walk through life with a quiet confidence that no loss can break you and no victory can own you. This is the power of indifference. And once you master it, you become truly unstoppable. Escaping the illusion, why you were never a loser to begin with. Everything you've been told about winning and losing is a carefully crafted illusion. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe that life is a competition, that success is measured by wealth, status, recognition, and power. We are taught to fear failure, to see setbacks as proof of inadequacy, to believe that if we are not constantly moving forward, we are falling behind. But what if I told you that this entire framework is a lie? That the idea of being a loser is nothing more than a social construct designed to keep you trapped in a game you never agreed to play? Think about it. Who decides what it means to win or lose? Who created these rules that say your worth is based on your accomplishments, your income, or how many people admire you? The truth is, these standards were never real to begin with. They were invented by a society that profits from your insecurity, that thrives on keeping you chasing an ever-moving target, always striving, always doubting, but always feeling like you need to be more. But here's the secret that Epictetus understood: none of it actually matters. You were never a loser because the concept itself is meaningless. You are simply a being, existing in a world full of unpredictable events, and your value has never depended on anything external. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that there is no competition, that there is no race to win, no scoreboard keeping track of your failures and successes, no invisible judge determining whether you are good enough. Imagine if, instead of constantly measuring yourself against others, you simply lived fully, freely, without the weight of expectation. What would change? How much of your stress, anxiety, and self-doubt would disappear if you no longer believed you had something to prove? Because here's the reality: even the people who seem like winners are playing a game they can't control. The rich businessman who built his empire still fears losing it all. The celebrity who appears adored still struggles with self-worth. The athlete who wins championships still feels emptiness when the applause fades. No matter how much they achieve, the fear remains because they are still trapped in the illusion, still chasing, still needing external validation to feel complete. But those who break free, those who realize that their worth was never tied to their achievements, experience a kind of peace that no amount of success can buy. Epictetus was right. The only thing you truly own is your mind. Everything else, the opinions of others, the circumstances of your life, the rise and fall of fortune, is beyond your control. And the moment you accept this, you stop being a prisoner of external outcomes. You stop needing to be seen as a winner because you understand that winning and losing were just illusions all along. You stop fearing failure because failure was never personal, it was just part of the natural rhythm of life. You stop chasing things that were never yours to control, and instead, you focus on the only thing that ever mattered: your own inner freedom. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped believing in the illusion of success and failure? If you stopped measuring yourself by standards that were never real to begin with? If you finally let go of the fear of being a loser and embraced the simple, undeniable truth that you have always been enough. Because when you do, something incredible happens. Then you stop running. You stop suffering. And for the first time, you truly start to live. The ultimate freedom, living without fear of judgment or failure. Imagine, for a moment, what it would feel like to be completely free, not just from external pressures, but from the deepest fears that hold you back. No fear of failure, no fear of judgment, no fear of being seen as a loser. Just pure, unshakable peace, no matter what happens in your life. This is not some fantasy. It is not reserved for monks or philosophers who retreat from society. It is something you can attain right now, simply by shifting your perspective. Because the truth is, the barriers that keep you trapped are not real. They exist only in your mind. And once you see through them, nothing will ever have power over you again. Think about how much of your life has been dictated by fear of what others think, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of not being good enough. How many opportunities have you let slip away because you were afraid of failing? How many times have you held back your true self because you were worried about how others would judge you? How much time have you wasted trying to prove something to your family, to your friends, to the world, when in reality, there was never anything to prove? The greatest tragedy is not failure itself, but the life unlived because of the fear of failure. Epictetus understood this better than anyone. He knew that true freedom is not found in wealth, power, or status, but in the ability to live without fear. He taught that the only thing we ever truly control is our response to the world. Everything else, fortune, reputation, even our physical bodies, is ultimately outside our grasp. And if we base our happiness on things we cannot control, we will always be prisoners. But if we let go, if we stop tying our worth to external outcomes, we become untouchable. No insult can shake us. No failure can break us. No loss can diminish us. Because we no longer seek validation from things that were never ours to begin with. So what does this look like in real life? It means stepping into the unknown without hesitation. It means embracing failure as a natural part of growth instead of something to be ashamed of. It means speaking your truth without worrying about whether people will approve. It means doing what excites you, what fulfills you, without the constant need for permission. It means realizing that, in the grand scheme of things, none of the things we stress about, money, status, the opinions of others, actually matter as much as we think they do. What matters is how we experience life. What matters is whether we choose fear or freedom. And here's the most profound realization of all: the moment you stop fearing failure, you start succeeding in ways that actually matter. Not in the shallow, temporary way that society defines success, but in a way that brings real fulfillment. You become more creative, more daring, more alive. You stop hesitating. You take risks, not because you are guaranteed to win, but because you are no longer afraid to lose. And in doing so, you unlock a life that most people will never experience, a life of true inner freedom. So now, the final question: what are you still afraid of? What illusion are you still clinging to that keeps you from living fully? And most importantly, when will you finally let go? Because the moment you do, you will realize something extraordinary: you were never a loser at all. You were simply trapped in a false game. And now you are free.